Show had a little microphone problem there for a second. I am here. I mean it. I am here. So I actually moved my podcasting studio to a different part of my house today because I lost my internet yesterday. We actually have 2 internet connections in my house. So I moved my podcasting roadcaster out to the kitchen because no one's home today. And then I plugged my microphone into the wrong spot. So had to quickly switch that over and get it done. But I am here. Boomer. See, I'm not a boomer, though, but I'm close. That's my problem. So Gen Xer, almost boomer. Honestly, considering that I did not get my first computer until I was 27 years old, you have to admit I'm pretty good with technology. I mean, we didn't have computers and shit when I was a kid. So all this stuff, right? I'm old, man. First computer, 27 years old. I'm old enough to remember back in the 80s, maybe it was the 90s. I actually had one of the first truly mobile cell phones, because back in the day, they had to be hardwired into your car, and you had like a little antenna on the back of your car, that type of thing. So then they came out with, before the giant handheld phone they came out with, they actually came out with a bag phone. So I literally had this cell phone that came in like a little bag, and you would have to carry the bag around with you and talk on the phone. But when you had one of those back in the day, you were the absolute shit to have a bag phone. So I had a bag phone. I'm one of those guys, man. Oh, Jesus. But the good news is, when I was young, I did not ride in horse and buggy. I actually had automobiles and things like that. And so I'm not that old, which is, kind of a good thing. So anyway, hey, today, just getting on, I'm going to freestyle a little bit and, talk about a few different things. And, I was thinking a lot about some of the things that are going on right now in society. I mean, and still the old man's, a little video that he did it like a couple of weeks ago, talking about, stop being angry, stop being mad, stop being, just unhappy with your life. It made me think a lot about, why are people so unhappy today? Why are people angry? Why are people having a difficult time in this life, in this life right now? We have so many people that have issues with mental illness. We have so many people that have, issues with anxiety, and so many things that are happening on. And really, it's no big surprise. Hey, Moonfeather, how you doing? Roku Beer, welcome. T. Chenoa, welcome. Eric, welcome. Thank you for everybody coming in. I appreciate it. But so today I wanted to talk a little bit about, really what is happiness and where does happiness come from? And if you're not happy, how can you make yourself happy? Now, I would imagine that everybody has like a different version of what happiness is. And I know that my version of happiness might be different from Eric's. It might be different from Moonfeather. It might be different from, Roku Beer's idea of happiness. It might be different from my wife's idea of happiness. Hopefully not, because then our marriage isn't going to last, I guess. But ZMS, welcome to the show. I appreciate you being here. And before I get into the topic of the show, I just wanted to run down a couple of things. I was reading through the news, and I like to give a couple of topics off the top of my head, before I actually start. I'm sure a lot of people probably saw that Bill and Melinda Gates are getting divorced. So that's pretty amazing. I mean, even though I'm not a huge fan of Bill Gates, I really hate to see anyone's marriage end in failure. Because, marriage is hard. I mean, I've been married now for 19 years. I've been with my wife for 23 years total. So we've been together for a long time, and, my wife and I love each other. We have a good relationship. We have a lot of good things that happen in our lives, but believe me, when you've been married for like 19 years, 20 years, 27 years, you have your days when you love each other, and you have your days when you just don't want to be in the same room with the other person. I mean, those things happen. I don't think it matters how good your relationship is, how bad your relationship is. I mean, relationships are hard, and you have to work at it. And that's one thing, my parents' generation, their parents' generation, I think a lot of times they stayed together maybe when they shouldn't have. They should have maybe split up and gotten divorced to spare their children of all the infighting in their homes. But yeah, I'm not a fan of Bill Gates, but you hate to see someone that, that loses their marriage. So I feel badly for them. I mean, who knows what's going on in their life. But sad to see. So 27 years of marriage, Bill and Melinda Gates are separating. They're going to get divorced, and I'm sure she's not going to have to worry about money for the rest of her life. She's going to be pretty much all set. Let's see. I see Eric Kirk saying, that's likely going to be the costliest documented divorce of all time. You're right. I mean, they both have big net worths. And, if either one of them feel bad about having that much money, I have a PayPal account. I have a Venmo account. So if they want to send me, $1 million or $2 million or whatever they can afford, I would gladly take it and not argue if they decided they wanted to do that. So I'm here, Bill, Melinda. If you guys want to give away some of that money, I'll take it. And I'll share it with all of you. So maybe we should start let's start like a campaign to Bill and Melinda Gates. We'll have them send money to me, and I will equally distribute the payment to each and every one of you that comes into my show. All right. So if you're here and you're a fan, then you're going to get paid. All right. So I'm going to buy my listeners into coming in. So yeah, no refund policy. Exactly. So listen, it was funny. I was coming up with, some news stories that I wanted to talk about, and I came across something accidentally, and I figured I would read this off. It's kind of funny. You know how we all are right now. I mean, you're either a pro-Trumper and you hate Biden, or you love Biden and you hate Trump. People hated Obama. They hated Bush. So I came across a list just accidentally of the 10 worst presidents of all time. Hey, everybody coming in. Thank you so much for everybody coming into the show. I greatly appreciate it. We're going to be getting to the topic of happiness very shortly. But right now, I found a list and I thought it was funny. So I'm going to read it off. The top 10 people, the top 10 worst presidents in the history of our country. Okay. And believe it or not, Donald Trump is not on the list. I thought for sure he would be on this list. I was getting closer to number one. It's one of those annoying ones where you have to keep scrolling forward. So I finally got there, and I was surprised to see he didn't make the top 10. So I'm sorry if that was anticlimactic for anybody here. But anyway, all right. So number 10 on the list as the 10 worst presidents in the history of the United States, we have Benjamin Harrison. He was president from 1833 to 1901. His vice president was Levi Morton. I've never heard of him before. Now, he was the grandson of former President William Henry Harrison. Benjamin Harrison's economic policies are believed to have contributed to the Panic of 1893. So that's why Benjamin Harrison made the list. There's a whole long story, but I'm not going to go into too much of it. So yeah, let me see your predictions in the chat box here as I'm reading through these. I see Moonfeather said Buchanan's on the list. Who else do you think is going to make the list? So that's number 9, Benjamin Harrison. All right. So moving on as I have to scroll on these annoying clickbait type of things. All right. Now, honestly, I don't even know if I knew this guy was president. I mean, Jesus Christ. How can I be this uneducated? Chester Arthur. That honestly doesn't even ring a bell with me. But he was born in 1829, died in 1886. His presidential term was from 1881 to 1885. And the reason why I'm laughing is it says vice president. He didn't have one. So there was no vice president. So this guy obviously must have been an asshole. And looking at the picture of him, man, he's got the big lamb chop sideburns, and he just looks like an asshole. So anyway, it says Arthur is one of only a handful of American leaders who did not win a presidential election at the top of his party's ticket. So how the hell did he win? I'd have to read more up on that. So I'm not even sure how that happened. So I'm seeing some names in the chat: Rutherford B. Hayes, Obama, Biden, Harris. So we'll see. I see Ford. Now, Victor, this is how old I am again, man. When I was little, Gerald Ford was president. So that's how friggin' old I am. I barely remember Gerald Ford being president. I remember Jimmy Carter. I remember, Clinton and on up the chain. But I do remember Gerald Ford being president of the country. I don't remember Lincoln. That was before my time. But Gerald Ford, I do remember. So, hey, Cash King and everybody coming in, thank you. I'm running down, before I get to the topic of the day, I'm running down the 10 worst presidents in the history of the country. So we just had Chester Arthur. All right, next up. Herbert Hoover was number 8 on the list. He was president from 1929 to 1933. You can imagine why he was not great, I guess. But it said Hoover was known as a poor communicator who fueled trade wars and exacerbated the Great Depression. So obviously that makes sense. I would imagine. We were top 10 presidents of all time. Top 10 worst presidents of all time. Millard Fillmore was number 6 on the list. I can't leave you guys. We got to get it going. All right. So number 5, we've got William Henry Harrison, who was president from 1841. Wait a minute. Okay. So he was president from March 1841 to April 4th, 1841. The longest inaugural address in United States history. He came down with pneumonia that made his 30-day presidency the shortest in U.S. history. So he actually died a month into his presidency. I had no idea that was the case. That is absolutely crazy. Okay, so you guys missed 8, 7, and 6. Let me scroll back really quickly since I must have, I know, right? Isn't that awful? All right, so let me run it down really quickly. Number 10 on the list, since we had the internet outage again at my house. Number 10 was Benjamin Harrison. Number 9, Chester Arthur. Number 8, as we fast forward, was Herbert Hoover. Number 6 was a tie, so 7 and 6 are the same. It would be a tie with John Tyler, who was president from 1841 to 1845. Then we had Millard Fillmore, who was president from 1850 to 1853, and he was one of those people that actually contributed to slavery spreading, and you can see why he would not be a very popular president. So William Henry Harrison was number 5, and then we just had so William Henry Harrison was literally president for 1 month before he passed away. And his vice president was John Tyler. So William Henry Harrison was president for 1 month, and then he came down with pneumonia and died. That is absolutely crazy. So, all right. So going on to the list where we hadn't gotten yet. So number 4 was actually Warren Harding. He was president from 1921 to 1923. So again, only 2 years. His vice president was Calvin Coolidge. So apparently Harding was an avid golfer and poker player whose administration is best remembered for its litany of corruption and scandals. All right. So I won't get any further into that. Who knows what the hell was happening during his presidency. So the next one, this one hurts me a little bit. Now, my home state, as a lot of you know, I live in Massachusetts now, but this is a New Hampshire guy, Franklin Pierce, the only president from the state of New Hampshire. And we actually have a Franklin Pierce University in New Hampshire. So this one kind of hurts a little bit close to home. So he was president from 1853 to 1857. His vice president was William R. King. I don't know if that's a relation to Stephen King, maybe, who knows. But Pierce's fervor for expanding the borders, thereby adding several slave states, helping set the stage for the Civil War. Okay, well, I can see why that would make him unpopular. Mr. A, welcome to the show. And I hope you're just coming in because you missed another boomer moment where, again, my internet went out, but I was able to resolve it today. So that's back-to-back days. I'm having internet issues. All right, number 2, worst president on the list. Andrew Johnson is the second worst president in the history of the country. He apparently survived impeachment after opposing Reconstruction initiatives, including the 14th Amendment. So he was president from 1865 to 1869. The number 1 worst president of all time, not Donald Trump, not Joe Biden. Of course, they may have to amend this list after the current presidency that we're dealing with. James Buchanan was the worst president in American history. His vice president was John Breckinridge. His presidential term was from 1857 to 1861. He apparently refused to challenge either the spread of slavery or the growing block of states that became the Confederacy. So there we go, America. We've got the worst presidents listed in the United States of America history. And I'm sorry, I know that you all know how I lean, but I'm guessing that list is going to need to be refreshed in maybe the next day or so. And we may be adding Joe Biden to that list. Hey, Jess Duck, welcome to the show. Bam Ram Eve podcast, welcome, and welcome to everybody that's in here. I greatly appreciate it. So anyway, we had some news stories. I'm going to cut a few out since we had like a little bit of a delay with my internet shutting down, but we are back and strong. And I'm actually on my house's other connection right now. So hopefully we're going to be okay with this. So the main topic that I wanted to talk about today, and this is something, honestly, that I think everybody battles with, and this is coming straight from the heart. I haven't prepared for this. I don't know what I'm going to say as I go forward with this portion of the show, but I wanted to speak from the heart and just speak from my experiences in life and talk about, how many people right now I am seeing that are struggling in this life right now. I mean, it's such a hard time in America to live, or even in the world to live. I mean, my experiences here, obviously, in the United States, but I mean, we have been through the last couple of years. Yeah, Moonfeather, give it a few seconds and I'll open up the phone lines. I'll let you guys know when you can call in. I'm just going to talk a little bit and then I'll let you guys call in to dialogue with me a little bit. Okay, so give it a few and I'll give you guys the okay to call in when I'm ready. So anyway, I'm sitting back thinking about the world we're living in right now. I mean, man, the last few years has been just constant upheaval, with politics, with the government, with world news. I mean, with everything. And in addition to that, you've got this pandemic where we've all been afraid for our lives. We've been trapped in our homes. If we have things that we enjoy to do, We haven't been able to do them, and we've just been literally trapped alone in our homes, struggling to maintain a positive, mental outlook on life. And I think a lot of people are having a really, really difficult time right now being happy. You know, I think they are. I think it's hard for people right now in this country and in this world to be positive, to be optimistic, and to be happy. So the more I thought about it is, I was thinking about what exactly does it mean to be happy? I mean, what is happiness? I mean, I would imagine that happiness takes on, a different form for every person that you speak to. I mean, some people might be happy with the very simple things in life. Some people might be happy, just being at home with their children. Some people maybe are only happy if they have like a high powered job and they're traveling and they're, making deals or running a business, or, maybe happiness is just spending time with good friends that you really care about. I mean, there are so many things that go into happiness, but if you're not happy, right? How do you change it? If you're not happy, if you wake up in the morning and you wake up and it's just the feeling of dread hits you right away, you wake up and you're sad and you're unhappy, maybe you feel like you don't have a purpose, so you haven't fulfilled your purpose in life as to what you thought your purpose might be. I mean, how do you change that? How do you deal with it? How do you make yourself happy? And honestly, for me, I'm asking these questions not just as rhetorical questions and not just as, like I have all the answers, because I really don't. I mean, I don't have all the answers to this, because I've gone through periods in my life where I've been happy, but I've also gone through very, very long periods of my life where I've been very unhappy. And I mean, I can talk about a couple of those right now on the show to kind of lay the groundwork. And then once I do, I'm going to open up the phone line so everybody who wants to can call in, and maybe we can have a discussion on what it takes to be happy. But, thinking back on my childhood, you all know, you've heard the stories. My childhood was not all roses. It was difficult a lot of times. And I don't blame anybody. I don't blame my parents. They had some very difficult cards dealt to them. So they had some very difficult things they had to deal with. And unfortunately, some of that spilled over into my life at an early age. And, I get it now as an adult where, life is hard. Life is hard, man. I've got 4 kids. They're great kids. But as they become older, the problems become more complex in their lives. And it's hard every day sometimes to wake up and be positive about everything. But, for me, when I was a young kid, I've talked about my sports career. I played football in college on a full scholarship at a Division I college, and that was good. But honestly, football was my second best sport. I was a very, very good baseball player back in the day. And I had a dad, if you've ever seen the movie Field of Dreams, he was a good baseball player, and he really pushed me very, very hard when I was young in order to become a good baseball player. And it got to be the point where it became a job. It became miserable. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't want to play anymore, because it was just like it was something that was pushed on me all the time. And it wasn't anything that my father was doing wrong. He was trying to help me live a dream maybe that he had. And I'm always very, very cautious in that with my children, because they both play baseball. And I ask them quite a bit, and I tell them, listen, anytime you don't want to play anymore, this doesn't have to be your dream. I mean, if this is my dream and you're doing it for me, stop. You don't need to play. But for me, what happened was I really did love baseball. And in high school, I ended up stopped playing, and I ended up focusing on football. And it was great. I mean, I got a lot of attention. I got letters from Notre Dame, Penn State, UCLA, Michigan, Ohio State, all the big colleges across the country. My phone rang off the hook every night from scouts calling me to recruit me to play for their college. And I was flown around to colleges to go on recruiting trips and things like that. And it was great. But the only problem I had was that my heart was not in football. Football did not make me happy. And I played a sport for a long time, 11 years of my life, that I was very good at, but I didn't love it, and it didn't make me happy. And what happened was, after my football career was over, after college, I wasn't good enough to play professional. My football career ended in college, which was fine. And it should have, because I wasn't good enough to move on after that. But then I realized that, I was 22 years old. My baseball career was over. I had hurt my shoulder playing football, my throwing shoulder, and I did go back and play in a men's league after college. And I wasn't the same, because I hadn't really played in 5 years. So for me, in my 20s, I had a very, very difficult time dealing with the fact that maybe I had missed my opportunity. I had missed the thing maybe that I should have done with my career. And for me, for a while, I was studying to be a sportscaster and a broadcaster. And I think I've told some of you that here. That was actually my major in college, and I never did it. And one of the reasons why I did that was for a few times, I had a friend that was working for a radio station. I would go to the ball games and report on them, the Red Sox games. And I would go in the locker room and get sound from the players when they were being interviewed. And it just made me sad. It made me sad. It made me unhappy. It made me feel like I had blown my chance in life at doing something special, at doing something substantial. So it was very hard for me to get through. So I would say through my 20s, I was kind of a lost guy. I was lost. I drank way too much. I did a lot of things I shouldn't have done. I spent too much time in the bars. I ran around a lot. Dated a lot of different girls. And I know that sounds like, hey, it sounds like you were having fun. I was having fun, but I wasn't happy. I didn't know what my purpose in life was going to be. I was just wandering aimlessly, and honestly, down deep, I wasn't happy with myself. I wasn't happy with my life choices. I wasn't happy with myself. And I think it finally got to be when I was about the age of 30. When my grandmother passed away. I was very close with her. She passed away. She'd gotten sick. She was in her mid-80s. So she died, and I ended up moving into her house. And when I turned 30, for whatever reason, it clicked in my head where I realized I need to pick my ass up off the floor, and I need to find a way to make my life happy. And maybe I missed out on the baseball opportunity, but that doesn't mean that has to define my entire life, right? I need to find something else that I enjoy doing. It may not be my life's dream, but if I can find something I enjoy doing, then go out and do it and give everything I have at being good at that. So I'd been in sales for years, and I work with companies that provide products to schools. So I started thinking about, my mother, who had muscular dystrophy. She had a very terrible disease. She died when she was 67, but she was sick many, many years before that. So I had to watch her get worse over the years and, basically die in front of me. And it was a very hard thing to watch. And it was a very slow process to watch her get worse and worse and worse over the years. So finally, I realized, okay, I wasn't good enough in school to be a doctor. I'm not smart enough to be a scientist, school-wise. But my mother had this disease that always made me feel powerless. So for me, what I did was I decided to really focus on the job that I was doing, and that was providing scientific products for schools. So I sell STEM curriculum, STEM products, STEM equipment, things like microscopes and chemicals and balance scales and curriculum that the students learn within school. So I started thinking, all right, what my meaning in life is going to be. Maybe I can't be the doctor that cures cancer. Maybe I can't be the doctor that cures muscular dystrophy or MS or autism or whatever it may be. But maybe if I work my ass off and I provide the tools to the people who are going to be those doctors someday or are going to be those scientists someday, maybe the programs that I sell and the products I sell will provide a spark in someone to allow them to live their dream and maybe cure a disease. And somehow I've played a part in that. And that motivated me for years. It really did. And I then realized also, as I got a little bit older, that for me, I also wanted to have a family because I never felt my family was great. I had a dad that tried hard. He came from a family that was difficult. I feel bad for him a lot. When I think about my dad and how hard he was on me and on my mother, I think about what it was like for him, where you've got this guy who things didn't work out in his life like he expected. And this guy who finally married this woman, he really loved her. My mother, she was beautiful. She was intelligent. And then she got sick. She found out at the age of 33 years old that she was going to die. She found out at 33 that she was going to die from muscular dystrophy, and my father had to live with that. My father didn't make a lot of money. My father got us by on what we had, and we weren't rich people, and he had to work his ass off at work, 12 hours a day. He had to come home. He had to cook dinner. He had to do the dishes. He had to do laundry. He had to do the yard work. I mean, the kids helped out, but he had to do a lot of this stuff on his own because my mother was no longer capable. So he was financially responsible for the family. He had to do a lot of the chores, and I can't even imagine the amount of stress that put on him. But what that turned into me having a difficult childhood. And I had to learn early that sometimes life kicks you in the ass and you got to fight back. Father Brian, good to see you, brother. So to make a long story short, the one thing I started to realize is, okay, well, maybe my baseball career didn't work out, but one thing I've always wanted was to have a happy family. So here I am at 30 years old, and it was like it was meant to be. I literally was asked to go to this Beanpot hockey event in Boston. That's a college hockey tournament they have in Boston in the middle of January. I hate hockey. I'm not a hockey fan. I don't like cold weather. I lived 20 minutes outside of Boston. I had to go in on a Monday night in January to watch college hockey in a school I didn't even go to for like this alumni event. But that night, I went to this thing. My friend dragged me to it. I met my wife that night. I met my wife that night. She was 7 years younger than I am, and I know that, the jokes come out, cradle robber, whatever else. But when I met her, I thought she was cute. But the first thing I said to my sister is when I talked to her the next day, I'm like, yeah, she's too young for me. I can't go out with her. She's about to be 23, so she's 7 years younger than I am. She is going to go to medical school. So by the time she gets done, I'm going to be like 37 years old. How can you have kids? How can you have a family? I was overthinking everything. And I remember my sister said to me, you know what, John? Who gives a shit about the age? If you liked her and you guys got along, call her. Go out with her. See what happens. So I did. And 23 years later, we have 4 kids. We've been married for 19 years. And all in all, we have a good relationship. Is our marriage perfect? I mean, sometimes when you look at Facebook, that's why I get rid of Facebook. I was so sick of it because you see little blurbs of everybody's life that makes them look so happy all the time. But really, you're only getting that little minute of someone's life or that second of someone's life where something good happened. And I don't fault people for doing that because you don't want to post, oh, my son came home from school today, punched 3 holes in the wall and then called me a fucking asshole. That's not really a Facebook moment. Your Facebook moment is, oh, so-and-so made the honor roll. But I think when you sit home and you watch that stuff, it depresses you because you think other people maybe have happier lives than you actually have, right? So I don't think that's true, but it's a fact of what happens in life. So anyway, I met my wife. We dated for years and we got married and we had our first son. Life was never better. I'm like, man, I love my wife. I've got a baby boy. That was, like literally like the greatest thing that ever happened to me. I remember I would take him, for like walks every day. It was like just an amazing experience. It was just great. And then, then you find out a couple years later, your son has autism. So, and Eric, I know you're in here and you have autism, and I don't mean to shed a negative light on autism because what my son has done during his life has been amazing. But, when you find out that your firstborn son has autism, back when I found that out, a while ago, it was probably even hard for your parents, Eric, because you're even older. But there really wasn't much about autism. The only thing I knew about autism was the movie Rain Man with Tom Cruise and Dustin Hoffman. I didn't have any other references. So then you had to come to terms with, your son having autism, and that was hard. So we've had 3 other kids, and they are wonderful children. They're wonderful kids. None of them are perfect. They all fuck up. They all make mistakes. They all struggle at times, but they're great kids. But life on a daily basis, for me, I have a stressful job. My wife has a stressful job. You got 4 kids going in 100 different directions. It makes it difficult. And there are times when you struggle in your life. I mean, there was a time when my mother passed away, and that was brutal. It was hard for me to get out of bed every day. I would lay in bed and didn't really have a reason to get out of bed every day. I was so sad, so upset, missed her, and it took a long time to get over that. And there were times where I was with a company for 16 years and I lost a job. And literally, it took me 2 months to get out of bed. I was in bed every day, just feeling like, I wasn't going to find another job like that one. I really loved the job. It was a great job. I blew it. I made mistakes, and I was sad and depressed and upset for like months on end. So looking at what we're all against in this world right now, I mean, man, we got the pandemic. I mean, I see my children suffer through it. They're anxious. They're scared. They're tired of the mandates, having to wear the masks and the social distancing, and not having, being able to play certain sports and having things like drive-through graduations. There are all these things that have changed our life and made things very difficult. And I see a lot of people in this world right now that are struggling to be happy. I'm going to open up the phone lines in like 2 minutes. I want to say a couple more things, and then we'll move to anybody that wants to call in. I see Moonfeather saying, I thought my autism was a bad thing, but I've come to realize it's not. I've come to realize the same thing, Moonfeather. I've said this time and time again, and I mean this sincerely as a parent. If someone came to me today and said, here's a pill. You give this pill to your son, have him drink the pill, and your son will be 100% typical. He'll be like every other kid, every other adult. All of the autism, all of these things that he has will be gone. Give him this pill, and he's quote unquote normal, right? I wouldn't want to give it to him. I mean, obviously, 18 years old, you want to give him the option of doing it himself. But if we were able to give him a pill that took away what makes him special, then he wouldn't be the son that I have and the son that I've loved for 18 years. So, he's a little bit different than my other children, where My other kids love sports. He really doesn't. I'm a sports guy. And but he's done theater. He's been amazing. He works his ass off. I've never seen anybody work as hard as he does. He goes into his grocery store every day and busts his ass to be the best bagger that he can be. He kills himself in school. He busts his ass, and I wouldn't change a damn thing about him. And I see Moonfeather, you're saying the same thing. I agree with you. I would not change it, and I'm glad you wouldn't take it, because autism is what makes you special. Autism makes you the person that you are, and I think it's so important for people to accept who they are. For me, I had to accept the type of person that I am. I'm certain things that are good, and I'm certain things that aren't good. But I think every single person in here, that listens to me in the live, that listens to me on on a download, you have to realize that you have to look in the mirror, realize what's really important to you, realize what are the one or two things that really matter to you in your life, and go get those things. Go get them. If it's a family, go get that family. If it's independence, get your independence and live alone. If it's having 10 kids, have those 10 kids and love your life. I mean, it's not going to be easy, but find out what matters to you and go after it. And find out also, when you look in the mirror, be honest about yourself. These are the things that are good about me. Maybe some of these things I need to work on. But I think if you're willing to accept maybe some of the things that aren't perfect in you, then you can get past those things and move forward and be happy and accept the person that you truly are. Because I had a lot of negatives in my life. I mean, I'm not perfect. I'm far from it. Far from it. And unless I get on here and I'm honest with all of you, I'm not doing anybody a service. So for me, I'm far from perfect. I've made a lot of mistakes. I've made a lot of bad decisions. I still make mistakes every day. I try to minimize those mistakes and do the best I can do in my life to help myself, help my children, and even help the people that come into my podcast. My goal is, at the end of the day, if I could touch one person and help one person feel better about the situation they're in. How you doing, Bobo? Welcome to the show. Then I will do that. But for me, happiness is just being happy, number one, with who you are. Accept who you are. You may be John DeVito. You're probably never going to be Brad Pitt, but you're John DeVito, and that's enough, right? You're John DeVito, and you're not going to be Tom Brady, or you're not going to be Howard Stern doing your podcast, but you're John DeVito, and it's okay to be John DeVito. John DeVito isn't perfect, but it's okay to be him, and it's okay not to be perfect. Look and be happy with the person that you are, right? And if you're not happy with the people that are around you, find people that make you feel better about yourself. Because if you're with people that are in your boat with you, if you're paddling your boat and they're not, if they're filling your boat with water instead of getting the water out of your boat, then they are playing a negative impact in your life and they're bringing you down. So you need to surround yourself, in order to be happy, with good, positive people that make you feel better and make you feel happy about the person that you are. You're right. Sometimes the best thing you can do is addition by subtraction. You add to your life by subtracting somebody out of your life. And sometimes that's really hard to do. But if you have someone that's a negative force in your life, that's putting you down all the time and makes you feel bad about yourself, what's the value in having that person in your life? So you need to wake up every morning and try to be happy. It's not easy. I know if you're someone in here that's listening to my voice right now and you're struggling, I get it. I've been there. I know how you feel. But if you're laying in that bed today and you can't get out of bed and you are looking to do something to get things going, open those curtains up, go outside for a walk, go out and do something and change the way you feel. I mean, you may not feel good today. You may not feel good tomorrow. You may not feel good a month from now, but take action today to start making yourself feel better for tomorrow and the next day. Get up and even do just little things. If it means going for a walk, if it means going to a movie, if it means just getting out of the house and driving to the beach or something like that. Take baby steps. Exactly. Take baby steps to make yourself feel good. And I think it'll be one of those things where it's a domino effect when you start to feel better about your life. And hopefully you can achieve happiness by doing so, or at least take that first step towards happiness. So I know Moonfeather, you wanted to call in. Feel free to call in now if you'd like. Eric, if you want to call in, and the phone line is open for anybody that would like to call in. We'd love to have you. So we got Moonfeather that joined. I'm not sure if Eric joined yet. If not, please feel free to do so. So Moonfeather, what do you think about what I'm saying now? Do you agree that happiness is kind of a hard thing to get sometimes, and you have to work for it? And I guess my question to you is, are you happy? And if you're not, what are you doing to improve that situation? So go ahead, Moonfeather.
I agree wholeheartedly with everything you're saying, and at this point, happiness comes more easily to me. Um, I've learned to accept myself as I am and accept my circumstances if I cannot change them as they are, and to the things that I can change to work on them to make them better. And I feel like I've come a pretty long way to get to where I'm at.
Well, I would imagine for you, your life probably hasn't all been sunshine and rainbows, right? I mean, you grew up with autism, and I didn't grow up with autism, but I grew up with a son. I raised a son that has autism, and it has been a long, hard road for him. Things haven't come easy. It's been difficult. He's had to fight for everything he's gotten. And there have been times where, I'll tell you right now, Moonfeather, one of the things I see right now with him is he is struggling. He's 18 years old, and he's angry. He's angry, but he's different. He wants to be a typical 18-year-old that can hop into his car, hang out with his friends, go see his girlfriend, and he is still dependent on his parents. And he does not have all the things that, a lot of typical kids his age have. And he's angry and he's sad. And, I feel very badly for him. Now, did you go through that when you were a little bit younger as well?
And I still sort of go through it, even to this day. Sometimes I'll say something to mom like, "Hey, I'm gonna go to this place, maybe a bar or something," and she'll ask me who I'm going with. The usual parent stuff.
Right.
But if she gets this weird gut feeling, she'll say to me, "Maybe you shouldn't," and I have to remember to take that in and then make the choice to either not go or go.
Well, it's hard, I think, sometimes for a parent too, because I mean, it's funny, you don't realize, your kids. Sometimes I have to stop and think when I look at my kids now being 18, 16, 14, and almost 12. They're not babies anymore. They're not babies anymore. And I need to realize that they're growing up. They're not the same kids they were 3 years ago. And I need to treat them a little bit differently. But it's also very hard for a parent to turn off that parenting thing because, I mean, you want the best for your kids. You want to protect your children, no matter, whether they're typical, not typical, whether they're, 18 or 48. I mean, you always want the best for your kids. And I know as a parent, we try to work on not doing that, but it's sometimes really tough when you see your kid making the decision that you're concerned about. You kind of want to put your 2 cents in because you're trying to prevent them, from being harmed. So, I mean, know that your parents are coming from a good place and they're trying to help you. But would you say right now, I mean, are you a happy person right now? And if you are, I guess, what's your definition of happiness? What do you feel is happiness today?
I am happy. And I feel like my happiness comes from doing the things I love. Like I'm part of the Special Olympics organization. Right now we're mostly virtual because of the pandemic, so I'm missing a lot of the friends that I get to compete with and against. But also with the advancements in technology, I've been able to keep in contact with some of them. So that's helped with my happiness. And I continue to practice for my sports, which my favorites are track and field and cross country.
Nice.
And every time I make a new personal record, I feel good about it.
That's fantastic. That's great to hear. My son did Special Olympics for a while when he was young, and then he actually transitioned over and became a wrestler. He actually wrestled for the K-8 program in our school district. And, one year he was kind of lucky where a couple of snowstorms caused a few tournaments to be canceled. And normally you have to earn your way into the state championship. But because of that, they allowed everybody into the state championship. And my son actually got to wrestle in the state championships for Massachusetts and actually won his first match at a state championship. And, sports for him was such a good thing. And I'll never forget how positive the team was towards him, because I always worried about kids being mean to him and not being nice to him. And I still remember one night I went to wrestling practice and I got there and I'm looking through the window. It was in the cafeteria of a school, so I could look through the windows in, and I saw my son. He was doing a running drill, and he was kind of last in the line. So I walked into the building, and I'm kind of watching from a distance, and I saw that the entire team was cheering on Matt. They were cheering for him, cheering for him, cheering for him, and then when he finally crossed the finish line, they were all hugging him and high-fiving him, and I never felt such a sense of just happiness and pride, and I was so happy that he was included, and that team went out of their way to make him feel good. And it was funny. I saw the same thing happen last night. My son plays Little League, and they had a Little League game last night. And one of the kids on the team looks like he struggles a little bit, with sports. And he actually made contact when he was hitting last night and hit a ground ball to the infield. And he got thrown out at first base, but he was hustling down. He's a big kid, so he's not super fast, but he was hustling down to first base, and they just got him out at first base. But literally, he ran into the dugout, and the whole team was jumping up and down and high-fiving him and hugging him and making him feel special. And my wife and I, literally the two of us, were almost both in tears, sitting in our chairs watching the game. See, look at that. Look at those kids embracing that kid, and it was just such a nice thing. And my son was one of the kids that actually was part of that. And what makes me angry about that is you always have people that are attacking your happiness. Now, we had a situation recently, and I have to share this because this really angers me. We had a situation recently where my son was up at the playground with one of his friends, and a group of kids were being mean to him. They were using dirty words. And then when one of the mothers came over, the kids threw my son and the other kid under the bus and said that they were using the dirty words. And, my son's not perfect. He knows all the dirty words. He's the youngest of four. I'm not stupid. I get that he knows these things. And this woman actually called my wife and laid into my wife about my son. And the one comment that she made that really pissed me off, she goes, well, I've heard things before about your son, and we figured we'd give him a chance. And, for those of you that don't know my youngest son, the kid has a huge heart. He goes out of his way to help kids that struggle. He has always been the kid that goes out of his way to help people that have special needs. He is friends with everybody. He's a good kid. And for this mother to call and then shit on my son like that really kind of pissed me off. I mean, my wife handled it in kind of the girl way where she very nicely told her to fuck off and never call our house again. Not in those words. That's what I would have said. But she did it in the girl way and did it appropriately when I would have done it inappropriately. But the thing of it was, now this really gets me, is these kids were using these dirty words, okay? They were picking on my son's friend. My son stuck up for his friend. And then they started bullying my son and then tried to get him in trouble with the parents. So now none of these kids are talking to my son and they're being mean to him. The other night in a Little League baseball game, this kid that was at the center of this whole controversy hit my son with a pitch when he was batting. And the kid didn't hit anybody else. He hit my son. So I didn't say anything to either one of the coaches. I kind of let it go, was very quiet about it. But if that kid hits my son a second time, then I'm going to be going to the coach and going to the league and saying, you have a kid here that's purposely hitting my son and purposely trying to hurt him now after this whole incident happened. So I'd love to believe that him hitting my son in that baseball game was an accident, but it wasn't an accident. It was done on purpose. I have no doubt whatsoever that it was done on purpose. And it's sad sometimes where the parents think that their kids don't make any mistakes and don't make bad decisions. Now, I don't even hold this against those kids. They made bad decisions. But as a parent, you got to open your eyes and realize that your kids aren't perfect. They're going to make mistakes and you need to discipline them. But my whole point here is these kids are trying to bring my son down. They're trying to attack my son. They're trying to bring him down. And luckily, he is a strong kid and he's not letting it happen. But these type of things happen in life all the time. You have people in life that want to destroy you. You have people that want to make you unhappy. They want to bring you down to their level, and they'll do anything they can to kind of get at you. So in life, you kind of have to have a strategy when you deal with people like this because they're everywhere. They're everywhere. I have them in my life. And sometimes these people are people that smile to your face. They seem like they're your best friends, but as soon as you turn around, you're getting those little knives in the back from people saying negative things, being negative, trying to take the wind out of your sails, telling other people you're not good at this, you're not good at that. So there are so many things that affect people's happiness. It's hard sometimes to remain happy, So Eric, you're here too, and you've been patient. I want to ask you, buddy, I mean, you've been up against it a lot also, and you've talked a lot about your life, man, and I don't want to get into specifics about your childhood or anything like that, but you've talked about, your religious beliefs. You've come across, you come out as, being gay, you have autism, you've been up against a lot of things. How do you maintain your happiness, Eric? And do you struggle with it on a daily basis?
yeah, I think happiness is going to be a struggle for everybody. I'm about to leave my brother and sister-in-law's place. I'm about to take a picture of them in their new vehicle.
Oh, nice. What kind of car did they get? Or vehicle did they
A
get?
Chevrolet Traverse. It's really nice.
Yeah, those are really nice.
Nice.
I like those are kind of like a hybrid in between like an SUV and like a smaller vehicle, right? All right, why don't you go take your pictures and we'll come back to you in a minute. When you're ready to talk, come back, take your picture, and then come back and talk to us a little bit. So anybody else in here? So, I mean, if you want to type something in the chat, I'd love to hear from you. Is there anybody in here that's really struggling right now with their happiness that wants to talk about it? You know, I saw that Kane tried to call in. I'm going to try to have him up here. He connected. So, Crazy Kane, how are you doing, man? How are things going? Can you hear me, Kane? All right. I see you up there. Hopefully you guys can still hear me. I hope my internet didn't cut out again. I've been having trouble with that the last. Oh, there you are, buddy. There you are. I can hear you now, loud and clear. Yep, I get you now.
Am I coming in clear?
So how are you doing, man? I know that sometimes you've talked about you've struggled with things. How are you doing? I mean, are you a happy guy or do you struggle with your happiness?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Are you still there, bud? Did we lose you again?
Well, let's look at it from my point of view. Go out anywhere without somebody driving me somewhere. So sometimes happiness is kind of up in the air.
Yeah.
But I
So
find
sometimes
the
you
joy
struggle
in
with
the
your
little
happiness.
things. I mean, just look at my face.
That's a big comment.
I'm a happy guy.
What little things? What little things do you find happiness in? I'm glad you said that. There's the laugh. So what little things do you find happiness in, Crazy Kane? I mean, I know you love coming into the podcast. Do you enjoy coming to the podcast? Is that one of the things you find happiness in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know what? Unfortunately, you're in the matrix a little bit. You're in the matrix a little bit, buddy. Hey, Eric, are you with us now? Are you back?
Time with family, movies.
All right, I'm unmuted.
Yeah.
I think coming to the podcast shows and hanging out with friends like y'all. I mean, that brings joy to me because I mean, I know that I found that y'all are just like a very interesting group of people, and and that's something you don't get to see and find every day.
We're all colorful, that's for sure. You get a group of colorful people in these podcasts, which is kind of funny. But let me ask you, Eric, do you struggle? I mean, you're an adult with autism. Have you struggled making friends in person over the course of your life, or is that something that's been?
I mean, that's something I've dealt with. I mean, and having a hard time trying to fit in, and because sometimes you'd have the feeling of like it's like you're a ghost, or you feel like you don't exist.
Right, exactly. I think that's what my son has felt like at times, where he just doesn't fit in and he feels like a ghost, like he doesn't exist. That's a great way to put that. So that's actually how you felt at times.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm sorry to hear that. So, I mean, I would imagine being here on Podbean, I mean, even though it's through your phone or through, whatever platform you have, I mean, you've been able to make some good friends here and make some good connections. And I mean, here with Podbean, you are a valuable member of this community where you've helped a lot of shows, mine included, in gaining listeners. And you get a lot of people that respect you here. So that, I mean, imagine that must make you feel good and play into happiness a little bit, right? But do you have days where you wake up and you're just not happy and you struggle?
There are days I've had like that, and is it going to come and go? Yes. But I think it's also going to come and go for everybody else too, because one day might be good for you, John. The next day, not so much, and I would be the same way too.
No, for me, literally, I wouldn't say this week as much, but probably for like the last month, I haven't been feeling great. I'm not sure why. I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it. Yeah. It's not like I'm miserable. I'm laying in bed and unhappy. I mean, I'm doing my job and doing my things with my family. I'm not sure what it is, but something has just been feeling not right, over the last month or so, where I've been kind of struggling a little bit with being happy. And when you think about it a lot, sometimes you can't put a finger on what it is actually that makes you feel this way. I mean, for me, sometimes I think about, maybe it's the fact that I'm getting a little bit older. I'm 53 years old. My kids are getting older. I mean, my kids have been a huge part of my life, and they're getting older now. They're going to start leaving. So maybe it's anxiety about maybe having my children and my family move on. So it could be that. I don't know.
You could be going through like the midlife crisis phase of your life, but I think and you being at the age that you are, you want to try not to let it get to you.
Right. Now, see,
because we're all gonna have like a crisis point in our lives, no matter what.
Yeah. Well, I thought I had gone through my midlife crisis in my 40s, but who knows? Maybe this is the real one. Maybe that was just like a pregame, and maybe this is the real one. So I don't know.
And it's like in the topic of happiness, we for example, our friend James of the Slightly Serious Show,
right.
In case anybody missed it, he is making a very slow comeback this week, but I think it's just going to be Podbean only. But because I know him and his other half were dealt the crushing blow of the family friend out in Hawaii that died.
If you could explain to me now with James, now who was this gentleman in relationship? This was like a best friend.
This was it was like a very close family friend.
Wow.
And he was like a mentor and father figure to him and his other half. Somebody they like looked up to.
That's hard when you start losing people like that. I had that happen a couple of years ago. Like I have a group of friends that I was really lucky to grow up with from the time I was a young kid. And we go up to Rangeley, Maine every summer. It's the third weekend in July. We have we have it in the books again for this year. And it was 2 years ago, one of the guys that goes up every year. And he honestly wasn't a close friend. He was a friend of one of the kids I went to school with. He was like an older brother, actually not a friend, an older brother of one of the kids I went to school with. But he was a big guy, like probably like 6'5", I don't even know, probably 350 pounds, just a big dude. But he was a real gentle giant, just a good guy, and he had a heart attack and died out of nowhere. I mean, he didn't really take care of himself like he should. Yeah. But he had a heart attack and died. It was very, very sad. I remember we went up to Rangeley that year, and his brother brought up his ashes, and we had like a little ceremony on this big overlook that overlooks the lake, and we dumped his ashes there. And it was really a very, very hard, sad thing to see. But he was a guy that really struggled, I think, a lot in life with his happiness, and he struggled with mental illness, I think, a lot in his life. He was someone that I think it was very difficult for him to hold a job, and I think he needed, public assistance to kind of make ends meet and things like that. And nothing against that, but he just needed it to survive, because for whatever reason, whatever demons he was battling, he wasn't able to get to that level in life where he was able to do the things he wanted to do. And, it was such a hard thing to see him pass. And I feel so badly for Slightly, where his good family friend passed away. Because, it must be just traumatic for James to deal with that. And I wish I could give him a hug.
And I know that we've been hearing a lot of the stories about, heart, blood clots in heart.
Yeah.
And stroke being a side effect of the COVID vaccines, even though they're supposed to be very rare. And it happened to an all-around great guy that James was really good friends with.
Yeah, it's very scary because I've seen other people now. I think I mentioned this the other day. Now, for those of you that are a little bit older, you might remember this guy, but there was a great boxer out of Massachusetts called Marvin Hagler, Marvelous Marvin Hagler. He was a middleweight champion, was an amazing fighter. And he actually lived up in New Hampshire. He moved to New Hampshire, and my father knew exactly where he lived. My father would go up to North Conway, New Hampshire, which is a beautiful little town up in the mountains. And you go up there, and he, he would go every day for lunch at this little place called the Scarecrow Pub up in North Conway. So my father would go in there all the time because my father had a girlfriend up in North Conway. He'd go visit her, and he'd see Marvelous Marvin Hagler sitting at the bar. And I was like, damn it, you got to bring me in there. He was like an idol of mine when I was a kid. But the first report that came out about his death was that he had gotten the COVID vaccine and he was healthy as a horse, and that he had passed right after the COVID vaccine. But then they kind of backed off that a little bit and didn't really push that story forward. And
and I've even heard other podcast friends, like our friend Jeremy from Cummings' Culture talk about this. I don't know if you and him have had conversations about it or not, that the reason why you've had a lot of COVID deaths occur in hospitals with COVID patients on ventilators, it's not really just the COVID virus that's killing them. It's oxygen poisoning.
Yeah.
Because if you learned this in science class years ago, that the air that we breathe is 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, and 1% of other natural elements.
Correct. Yep.
Because and And if you know people who've got severe COPD emphysema, they can't take levels of oxygen, or it'd kill them because they have a higher chance of developing pneumonia.
Right.
And any doctor or nurse would tell you that.
Well, you know what's tough too is, to go on kind of the happiness theme a little bit that we were talking about throughout the show. What worries me is at the end of this pandemic, when this thing is finally over, if it ever happens, I'm so worried about the mental health of so many of our Americans in this
That's
country
true,
right
too.
now. Because I look at my children, they've suffered. I mean, for me, I'm an older guy and I've never been through this in my life. But I mean, for me, this hasn't been like traumatic for me. I mean, this is almost something I've always done. I've always worked in sales. I work remotely out of my house. So I've been at home before and it doesn't really bother me. I'm used to it. But when I see my kids pulled out of their kind of natural habitat and thrown into this crazy new life, and you see all these people that have been locked in their homes for like over a year. I mean, people are suffering with mental illness. People are suffering with depression. People are struggling to find a way to be happy. And unfortunately, we see in most states that it just doesn't look like it's going to end. Like I'm seeing that, the city of Boston, near where I live, the mayor's talking about opening up the city maybe by August 22nd. But I mean, August 22nd is great, but we live up here in this cold climate. And really the summer season is the busy traveling season where people like to visit the beautiful city of Boston. Because if you come in January, it's a cold, frozen tundra and it's miserable. I mean, over the course of the summer, it's a beautiful city, a great place to visit. But if you keep everything closed, and people have to wear the mask, they do the restaurant and do all these type of things, people aren't going to travel to Boston. They're going to go to Newport, Rhode Island. They're going to go to Florida. They're going to go to places where the restrictions have been released. And
Texas is another place.
Texas is another one. And you're further driving people into depression because you have people that have probably spent their life savings opening businesses, and now for over a year they haven't pulled in the money they need to pull in to basically generate their business the kind of revenue it needs. So you've got people that are struggling financially. You've got people that are depressed. You've got people that deal with supreme anxiety because of everything we've been through. And I don't think we've seen the true effect of what this anxiety is going to mean in the long term. Like I just saw an article this morning when I was reading the news stories. There was one that says airplanes are now seeing the most unruly passengers they have ever seen in the history of air travel. And I think part of that is because people are getting on planes, man, and they're anxious. Like I know that I flew on a plane, and if your mask slipped a little bit, they'd yell at you. I went to Disney World with my kids back in February, and same thing. I mean, every 2 seconds, someone was on top of you about your mask. Put your mask on, put your mask up. And we all had masks on. It's happened to kids in school. It's happened in a lot of different places. And I think that this constant pressure all the time and the constant fear is putting people in a place where they're going to have to battle back for a very long time to get over this. And we just had Freedom Warrior join us. Welcome to the show. How you doing, my friend?
Hello.
How are you? So what's going on?
Thank you.
Hello.
Well, I just wanted to call in. I was listening to you and I was thinking about this topic, which I've been thinking about quite a long time and discussed with friends also.
Yep.
And I did my own podcast. I did a few podcasts about healing ourselves.
Okay.
And I brought to the topic a fellow Dutchman called Wim Hof, who's also very well popular in the United States. And he speaks a lot about breathing techniques and cold water training, which really helps against depression and getting yourself, into a more happy state.
Could you explain some of those to us? Because maybe some of the people in here could benefit from some of these techniques to help them feel better. So what do you have for us?
Well, yeah, it's a very simple technique. And you can find a lot of his clips also on YouTube. You just have to type his name. But it basically comes down to breathing and cold water. So it's not an easy thing because most people are not a big fan of cold water or cold showers. But like for instance, a simple technique that he always does is you do 3 times breathing, like 25 times breathing in and breathing out, and then holding your breath after that for like half a minute or a minute. And you can do it very easily. After a while, you can hold your breath for like 2 minutes. And then you start doing, for instance, like cold showers. You start slowly. You do it maybe for 10 seconds in the beginning, building it up. And you really get a rush. I do it every morning, and you get a really big rush, and you get a lot of energy going. And if you do this long enough, and if you follow, like for instance, his techniques, and there's many different techniques as well, you can really deal with depression in a very good way.
Well, that sounds pretty good. So, what was the guy's name? Maybe Eric, maybe you can type that down in the chat down below. And if
I can
anyone
type
wants
it. It's called. He's called Wim Hof. I'll type it.
yeah, type it in. That'd be great. If anybody wants to
He's
take a
very
look.
popular in the States too, and he is doing all the scientific research because he achieved a greater deal with. He wanted to prove also that he not was making it up. So he did scientific research, a lot of scientific research in the Netherlands and also in the US, to prove with everything he did, with all these techniques, that it was not just a scam, that he could actually, that anyone can actually do it.
Let me ask you this question. So, I mean, you're a very wise guy. You know, you obviously are educated. And I mean, what would you say is the secret to happiness? I know that's a loaded question. And if someone in here is struggling right now with happiness, what's one step they could take maybe to start feeling a little bit better? You know, what do you think?
The secret. Oof.
I know,
Well,
it's a
like
hard
you
question.
also mentioned, I think being yourself is a very important point, and also knowing in most parts, I think that you are already good enough. You know, you don't this pressure of society, this pressure of your parents sometimes. Everybody pressuring you into being something, and
Yes.
in the end, I think accepting that you are good enough in many ways I think that's a big step.
I think that's one of the important things for younger kids to realize too is, you know, when you're in your teens, I mean, you're trying to figure out what you want to be, and your parents are sometimes pushing you in certain directions, but you do have to get to the point where, like you said, I mean, and like I was saying earlier in the show, you have to be happy with who you are, figure out who you are as a person, and then embrace that and not be ashamed of it. Be happy with who you are, you know, be proud of who you are, and don't compromise who you are for anybody. You know, I saw, what was I watching? I saw this video. I don't know where I saw it. I can't remember. I don't know what that was, loud noise. But I saw this video the other night of this. Oh, you know what it was? I was I was watching the TV show Naked and Afraid. I love that show. Me and my wife were watching it. And the guy that came on was a gay. He was probably, I don't know, maybe 30 years old. And I guess his father was a right-wing Republican that didn't agree with his life choices. Not that it's really a choice, in my opinion, but didn't agree with him. But they were able to find common ground, even though, you know, the young man was a left-wing liberal and his father was a right-wing Republican. His father didn't believe in people being gay and his son was gay. They still found a way to find common ground, and they accepted each other for who they were. And I think, you know, if you're a parent and you're listening to this, you know, of course you want the best for your child. You want to do what you can to help your child thrive in life, but you also can't make it about what you want. You got to figure out what they want and then help them get what they want if you can. You know, that's so important to just support them and be there for them. And, you know, sometimes it's hard. I mean, your kids sometimes will tell you things and you sit back and go, boy, that doesn't seem right to me. I need to fix that. But you can't fix it. You just need to listen, let your child speak about what they need to speak about, accept what they're saying, make them feel validated, let them understand that you're hearing them, that you're supporting them no matter what they tell you. Because I think sometimes it's so easy to react. Like if your child tells you something that's shocking to you, then you're just like, holy crap, you know, where did that come from? I need to stop that. That isn't right. But that's not the right way to parent, because then you're going to have like a huge gap between you and your child. So you got to find a way to be supportive and do the right things for your child, and hopefully just be there. You know, as they get older, they need probably less direction and more support, you know, and I'm trying to transition to that right now. I'm trying to be that supportive guy instead of the guy that's running through walls to pave the way, you know, for my children. And I think that's something you got to learn as a dad and as a mother and as a parent, you know, if you can. So kind of going off on a tangent there, but listen, I'm hour and 10 minutes. I got to log this thing off and get back to work at some point. But do any of you guys have anything else you want to say before I kind of wrap this thing up? I want to start moving towards ending it. If any of you guys have anything you want to say, here's your chance. Feel free to take the microphone over and I guess let people know, you know, maybe what's your version of happiness and what do you think happiness is. So Moonfeather, do you want to say anything else before we sign off?
Let go of anger. I remember that clip that Eric played for us the other day. There's just too many angry people out there, and anger eats at you. I went through a time where I broke up with this young man, and I just fell into a deep, dark depression. And one day I was like, I've had enough. I'm going to pick myself up. I'm better than this. And things have been basically uphill since then.
That's good advice. Anger, anger, and if you hold grudges against people, you may have a reason to hold a grudge, or you might even have a reason to be angry. But what happens is if you hold on to that anger and you hold on to that grudge, I mean, maybe you're right in holding that anger, but what's going to happen is it's going to affect you as a person also, and it's going to make you unhappy. So you need to find a way that if you're angry with someone, maybe that person doesn't really have a place in your life anymore, but you have to let the anger go, because if you hold on to anger, it's going to affect you. It's going to take you down, and it's going to affect your happiness. So that's very good. And actually, I actually forgot, Ismail came in also. He wasn't actually up on my screen. He just popped up. Ismail, before I log off, do you have anything you want to say on some of the topics that we've been talking about? I want to give you a chance to speak before we end the show.
Yeah, thank you, bro. How are you?
Ismail, you there?
Yeah, hello. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. So, yeah, what do you have to say about our topic of happiness, or, what do you have to say about some of the things we've been talking about?
Yeah, of course. Well, I think life is suffering or suffer. You just have to find purpose and to make it less suffer, something like that, because you have to deal with this. We are here in life, so there is no we cannot run away. We just have to find how to deal with it.
No, you're right. I think that's very good advice. You're absolutely right. I mean, you have to find a way to find that purpose in your life. You have to find a way to find that happiness. And I think if you can,
Capito, give me the cat.
Oh, who do we got here? We have a troll calling in. What do we got there, Jez? You got anything funny to say? If you're going to come in and troll, you got to at least be funny. So bring something funny. That's it? Oh, come on. You can't be that shy. If you're going to come in and troll my show, you got to
Should we give that troll the boost sounder?
Oh, well, hold on. Let me find my sounds. That deserves a sound. Hold on. Let's see. What am I going to do? I got like on my Roadcaster, I got like 10,000 different sounds to choose from. You know what? I'm going to give him this. I think this is a good one. Come on. If you're going to bring, how about, you haven't heard this one in a while. How about my daughter, Caitlin?
Ew.
So that's my daughter, Caitlin, with that sound. Troll, come on. You got to do better than that. If you come back in, bring some heat. Okay, that was. You came in, you tried, but you got embarrassed and you left. So, good try.
Well, or you don't want to get the lady who does the oh hell no.
Oh wait, I have that. Hold on. Where is? I get so many damn things on. I've got like 6 screens full of sounds. Oh no, did I copy over that? I might have. Oh no. Oh, I caught. Oh, I got this one. I like this one. The baby laugh. And actually, if you couple that with vomit. Right? There we go. All right, I'm done being a child. Okay. So all right. So listen, we got Eric, Crazy Kane, and Freedom. So Crazy Kane, what do you have to say? You were in a bad cell area before. If you got anything you want to say, brother, get it out now and let us know what you're thinking.
Take a good look at the crazy one's face.
Yeah.
I'm always smiling. You gotta learn how to smile. See, I roll with the Juggalo family every now and then.
Are you still there? Did we lose you? Hopefully I'm still here. Can you guys hear me? Now
you're still here, John.
Cutting out, all right? It's happened twice.
We hear you, bud.
All right, good. Now I'm gonna have to go back actually before I publish this and actually edit out the dead sound. And I'm a complete hack when I edit it, so you're gonna hear like the obvious jump in conversation when I do it. But at least I'll do this. I'm good. Hey, Jess Duck, I saw your comment a little bit earlier. Jess Duck was absolutely correct in her comment. You cannot rely on somebody else to make you happy. You need to create your own happiness. I didn't want to forget to mention that because I saw it pop up, and you're absolutely correct. So, Freedom, you got anything else, or are you good to go? And then we'll go to Eric.
Well, I thought that if you can somehow figure out what love probably really is, then you can also find happiness. That was what I was thinking about.
That's so true. It's so true. All right, everybody. I'm going to have to wrap it up. I've been on for a bit, and I got to get back to work. Eric, do you want to?
Yeah,
I guess give your closing thoughts on happiness, and then go to some of the shows that are coming up. And
just like don't let the negativity and whatnot get to you, but but in the meantime, be around like positive influences.
Yeah,
And
Joe.
coming up later on Podbean, you've got the Communist Culture coming up at 7 p.m. Eastern. And if Slightly Serious is on tonight, it should be 9:30 p.m. Eastern. And same with Trice Talk at 11 p.m. Eastern. And then the Old Man is back tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. And I saw Dina Joe walk in as we're getting ready to wrap up. And welcome Crazy Town. And she's got a great show, by the way. So definitely be on the lookout for her, and Frankie D's Crib tomorrow, and then hopefully John, you might be back tomorrow as well.
Yeah, I'm not going to be back tomorrow. I'm going to go up and see
or
my
maybe
dad.
Thursday.
If I do one tomorrow, it might be later in the afternoon. Tomorrow, I'm going to go up and see my dad tomorrow in New Hampshire. But I'm going to be back on Thursday. I'm going to try to do shows Thursday and Friday if I can do them. And I might do a pop-up tomorrow if I can fit it in, but it probably won't be at the 11:30 time. So, all right, everybody. Hey, thank you for coming into my show. I greatly appreciate it.
God bless you, everybody.
This was a good show today, talking about happiness. We had a bunch of people coming in, and it was a good show. So I hope that some of the things we said, some of the things we talked about maybe would help somebody, because I think no matter who you are, no matter what you have in your life, whether you're a billionaire, whether you're struggling to buy food, whether you're married, whether you're single, whether you're Brad Pitt or whether you're John DeVito, I think you struggle with happiness on, given days. And all we can do is get up every day and just give our best. Wake up, and if you had a bad day the day before, try to put that day away. It was heavy, so put it down. Focus on today. Don't worry about tomorrow. Just try to live a good day today. And if you've had people being mean to you, maybe try to do something kind for somebody else. Instead of paying that meanness forward, pay the kindness forward instead. So maybe you affect somebody else's life in a positive way. Okay. So for everybody coming in, this is going to be a little bit more of a common theme on some of my shows. I'm going to be doing some more of these shows, talking about things like, what is happiness? Maybe what is love? What are some of the positive things that we need to work on in life? Because I think, I do a lot of political shows and I do enjoy doing those, but I also want to make sure I'm doing shows that kind of help people feel better about their lives right now. Because I think we've been dealing with a lot with the pandemic and everything else going on. And I want to do what I can to hopefully, maybe help people a little bit and make people feel better. Because I know a lot of days I need it. So if I need it, and I'm sure all of you need it, and hopefully we can all come together and make each other's lives better. Okay. So listen, I love you all. And let's see if I can find my rock music, because I was switching my screen around. So now, okay, here it is. All right. Let's see if I can do it right without being a boomer. Okay, here we go. Ready? And look at that. I did it. All right. Love you all. Take care, everybody. Thanks for joining the John DeVito Show.
See you next time, everybody.
See you next time. Have a good day.
Later, everybody.
See you.
See you. See you. See you.